I'm Sir Flowbojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm Teflon Frosthammer.
And I'm Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this
is
WAK.
If Amtgard knighthood means anything, you can't knife a motherfucker and keep it.
And the thing that people need to understand essentially about arts and sciences events is that your scores don't matter.
Do you want a black phoenix or a white phoenix?
Jeez, language, man. We're on
right.
a freaking podcast, for fuck's sake.
Mind-blowing experience, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to WAK, where we discuss topics important to the Amtgard community at large and talk with interesting people from around the foam fighting world. This week, we are going to be capping off our Flame Belt month, and we have two special guests on. We have returning Sir Khazon Mander and his Squire Cade Mander. Say hello, guys. Sorry, I need to grab a drink.
So a little, how's it going? So a quick follow-up on this. I actually just pulled the Trello card. Do you know how long this interview has been on our to-do list?
Let me guess. 5 months?
November 18th, 2020 is the day this card was made. So it's been in the works for a minute. And yeah, we've got number one back. We have Cade. How's everybody doing?
Bueno.
Yeah.
So
Doing well. Got my second vaccination, so
congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, I got 2 more days and then I have mine.
Yeah, mine's
Nice.
Friday.
So did that myself. Woohoo.
So to catch you guys up, we have been interviewing Flame Knights. This is the end of our belt series, where we take and interview 4 different people from every belt, and we always cap it off with the Knight and Squire combo. We could think of no better Knight and Squire combo than you guys to cap off the very last one of these interviews, our Flame Belt month. You have both been a big part of what has been going on in Winter's Edge for a very long time. And this is all about telling people a little bit about Flame Belt, talking to them about your experiences specifically, and then giving some advice to new people who are interested in looking into this particular path of knighthood, and some advice that you may have for them. To start off with, we always ask how people got in. Khazon, I know that you gave this story way back on our first episode. Could you give us a very, very quick recap of how you got in?
Sure. Yeah. So I had a roommate who knew this guy from Aladdin's Castle that was trying to get him out to do this like foam fighty thing that was like, live action D&D. And he's like, yeah, he wants us to come out and give it a go. So I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty neat. And I was rather interested. But I really encountered it when I went to the Hogtown Medieval Fair down in Gainesville, Florida. And they're having this clue game going on there, and we played the clue game, got to know some of the Amtgarders and things, and heard about what was going on, and saw some of the wacky bats, and decided to go ahead and give the number a call. And that number had the name The Baron. So I went ahead and called up, and I'm like, so can I speak to the Baron? And by the way, this tiny little squeaky voice is what answered the phone.
Oh, no.
Hello? And then there's this long pause, and then all of a sudden I hear, Dad!
That's awesome.
So sure enough, Sir Bjorn, that time Squire Bjorn, got on the phone and started talking to me, and we found out all about it. It turned out there was this amazing park that was like 5 minutes from where I was living. And it was one of the very few Grand Duchies throughout the whole game. And we were having pretty consistently like 40, 60 fighters on the field, maybe 10 to 20 non-coms all the time. And it was just a blast from there out. I can't look back. It was great.
And just as a reminder to our longtime listeners, this is Darkwater East and became what I believe was the largest park on the East Coast for a period of time. I don't know how long. Goldenvale proper may have challenged it on those numbers a little bit, but it was a huge park for a very long time. Thank you so much. Cade, how did you originally get into Amtgard? And if Amtgard wasn't your first boffer, how did you get into boffer sports, and then how did you transition?
Okay, so actually, you say that the first time I encountered foam fighting, I was working at a Boy Scout camp. And one of the other guys who worked up there with me had done some Nero and was writing his own game. And I was into, D&D and mechanics and things like that. So I was helping him with the game, and we did a little bit with that. And I can say that the sticks we used were less than safe. They had that thin stuff that we don't even allow for courtesy pad wrapped with duct tape. And I think it was designed to be a lightest touch system. I'm not sure that's how we always played it. We were teenagers working at a Boy Scout camp for the most part. I understand that at some point he ran that game out in Mississippi somewhere.
Oh, interesting.
But I brought that back, did some with some of my friends, in like 99, early 2000. And we stopped when somebody got whacked real good. Actually, 2 of us got whacked real good. I took one to the head. You make your jokes here. But a little bit later, I was at a Ren Fair, and because I'm a big old nerd, I was wearing a full suit of leather armor in the summer heat of Georgia. And I walked into one of the stores, and a wonderful young lady at the Royal Clothiers at the Georgia Renaissance Fair came up to me and asked me about the local Amp-Guard Park, as if I knew what it was about. Apparently, she was from El Paso and had done Amp-Guard before. And I just said, "Amped what? Tell me more." And she did. And I ended up getting in contact with Sir Squeak, Khazon's former knight, actually, and started meeting. I was probably one of the first 3 or 4 members of the park. And it was me and Sir Squeak and Sir Rift and his wife and another guy named Phineas. So I started in my park as one of the only non-knights in the park that was consistently there.
No pressure, right?
Huh?
No pressure, right?
No, actually, it was really good. I had been fencing not long before, and so I did pretty well fighting right off the bat. And, of course, Squeak was friends with people like Glenn, now the Mallet of Providence. And he came up and he showed me that the rabbit hole was a lot deeper than I realized. He and Brennan and people like that. But that's how I got into Amp-Guard. I was walking around like a big old nerd wearing a suit of leather armor at a Ren Fair. And somebody asked me about the Amp-Guard Park, much like if you wear a blue polo and khakis in a Best Buy.
Yeah, and because there was some names mentioned there that a lot of the people in Winter's Edge nowadays aren't going to know. To fill our audience in, Sir Rift was a old school sword knight. I think he was a 3-belter, and he was really famous back in the day. I remember him because he always rode to the park on a Harley. All of his gear was strapped to I don't know if he still did that at the time that he was coming out to see you guys, but for the longest time, he would just ride out on a Harley with all of his gear. We mentioned Squeak before. That's Khazon's knight. She was pretty much the reason that the kingdom was able to form. She was a lot of the early organization for us, and was a big part of that. So it's interesting to see where you plugged into all of that right on the ground floor. I remember the first time you and I met was at Big Ridge, where I got my ocular cavity cracked.
Oh, yes, yeah, and I still feel bad about that, even though I'm not the one who cracked you. I did turn you right into it.
Yeah, Cade is the reason that it happened, because he ran up beside me and went, "Flo, booga booga booga," and I turned, and the guy smacked me right as I was doing it. So.
And those are one of the reasons why we need to have weapons checks.
Yeah,
right.
Man, do we need to have weapons checks, folks?
So we had weapons checks there, but I paid off the person that was checking weapons. Literally, I handed them cash.
Not a single person will believe this one.
Yeah.
Who was checking weapons at that event?
I mean, no one.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't remember who it was at that time, but...
I thought for sure it would have been Teflon, right? Like,
no, Amp-Guard worked differently back then. Amp-Guard worked differently back then, but I really did give the person cash that was checking weapons to allow my weapons. Yeah, to allow my weapons through. We shouldn't laugh about that. It's not funny. It's a little funny. I was pulling up the wiki pages for Cade and Khazon. I don't know if have you seen Khazon's picture
Oh, it's great.
I have seen that picture. I did not realize that is the one that was on the page.
You look like Fabio.
He like the wind through the trees.
It's very good.
So, I know that the guys have some questions for you. I wanted to get us started off here, and for this is going to be a question for both of you. I want to start with Squire Cade on this one. Cade, you had everyone has kind of a long path to their belt, but you have been around the kingdom and doing things for a very, very long time. Talk to me a little bit about your early time working around the kingdom and doing things, because I don't think a lot of the audience was around when you were doing that, and I think it would be really useful for them to hear what that was like.
Oh wow!
Can you remember that long ago? We still use CRT. Cade's actually older than I am.
True.
Yeah, it's true. Going back, like, I don't know. I think I got my first rose for like picking up trash, as many people do. The first big thing that I remember doing, first two big things I remember doing is when we kind of rebooted Iron Springs, Sport in the Tunic. Oop, wrong side.
Yep.
Sport in the Tunic here. That mirror image.
Yeah.
I ended up with a Lord title because we built the park from 0 to like 30 regular members pretty quickly, and we brought a caravan of 20 of them up to a Shadow Forge event where Avi took his spill.
That's when he originally busted his shoulder up.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. That was a bad hill to be doing a game on.
Yeah, it was.
Choices were made, but yeah, the first big thing I think I can remember doing was I tried to do a breakfast at an event, and I say tried because looking back on it now, what I did then and what I do now are a far cry from one another. Definitely did not understand how the financing of it worked, and Lexi was able to help me out with that the day of, because I definitely did not have enough money in my bank account to cover everything, and they get paid back afterward. And we did this breakfast, and everybody ate, and I feel good about that. But there were definitely more than a few hiccups. But everybody ate. It was a good time. The other people who were doing it with me were absolutely fresh at doing it too. When we talk about advice to people for later, that we'll circle back to that.
All right.
And I think I got my 5th rose back, and I want to say it was 2007, somewhere right around there. It was when they had an Olympiad down in Florida.
I remember
the Defrost Olympiad, and we did a meal for that one. That was fairly epic meal time. We even did like brownies a la mode with raspberry drizzle.
Nice.
Cheesecake for the head table, baked in-house. It was not purchased cheesecake. We baked it in the oven. And I know one of Flo's favorites, I introduced him to acorn squash, spiced acorn squash, which he liked quite a bit.
You're the reason he won't shut up about acorn squash.
Dude, it's so good and it's so easy to make. So, follow-up story to this. I was talking to Cade about this years later. I'm sorry for interrupting, Cade. I was talking to Cade about this years later and was like, oh man, yeah, I love making it. It's just it takes so long to bake in the oven. Cade's like, I don't bake it in the oven at home. I put it in the microwave. And my eyes get this big. It's like, you can put it in the microwave?
Yeah, you can't microwave for 120 people, but when it's just you, yeah, absolutely.
I seriously ate acorn squash in the microwave until I made myself sick.
Wow, that sounds about right.
And it was so simple, such a simple recipe. But yeah, so we went and did that in Florida, and that was a kick. We did a big meal with the lanterns. I'm losing my timeline, but it was either before or after that one where he did smoked pig and a bunch of other things.
And you guys actually had served for that one. Like, people didn't get up. That one was brought to your table.
Shalazar went out we put the salad bar in the middle of the room, and Shalazar went out to tables and cut meat at the tables.
Nice.
We rolled the butcher block around and actually cut and served right at the table. So I thought that was really cool. We've done some other. I think that one actually was served meat, but I believe it was family style for the sides.
That sounds right. Yeah,
that's kind of genius because you keep people from like overloading on meat, and like that's the main part of the meal. That's cool.
Yeah, and also in the family style and sides, some people really like mashed potatoes, some people really like something else, and so instead of giving them all the exact same portions, they can kind of fight over it at the table, which that's really what meals are about, is fighting with your family.
Well, so you also do this thing too. This might be another way of saying what you just said. I hope it's not, but if I know that this amount of mashed potatoes is all that there is for our table, I will be much more apt to just ask around and say, hey, does anybody care if I get a second scoop? And Jeff, in this example, Teflon says, oh, no, man, I'm not going to eat those. We're in fantasy land now. But Jeff says, no, I'm not going to eat those. And I go, oh, cool, I'm going to take his portion or something. I think it's easier for the table to kind of negotiate their own.
And for the most part, if you got a good serving staff, and it takes extra staff to do it, but if you got a good serving staff, you can get everybody in the room pretty much served at the same time, which I definitely prefer over having big lines when like half the room's done eating and some of the people haven't even gotten their food yet.
Yeah.
Meals should be a family experience.
Agreed.
So early stuff was a lot of feasts. We did some local events at Iron Springs, something I think Georgia is kind of hoping to bring back we've got two parks that are closer together now. Very excited about that. And had the Kingdom come down for a few things, like did rooftop battles and things like that. Eventually that led into doing the 8 years of Crystalline Chronicles. And so that should get us closer to the time frame when people are starting to know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And I just want to point out here, too, that at its base, people will say that Flame and Crown are very similar, and with good reason. A lot of times people that are high up in one are also pretty high up in the other. Not always. But what you are describing at its core is organization. You organize things, and then you did those things. Sometimes that was organizing meals. Sometimes that was organizing events at your local park, which hopefully we'll be seeing more of. We actually just now recently had one. We're still in COVID right now, so there were some restrictions, but it was great to be able to just have any amount of people be able to get together, and the Georgia parks were gracious enough to host it for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's really important to point that out for a couple of reasons. You don't have to be good at organization to get into doing something like this. It helps, but as Cade pointed out, his first breakfast was pretty disastrous. You can't be afraid to make some mistakes, and you can't. I think that Cade is going to elaborate on this a little bit more later, but you have people that have already made all of those mistakes. We didn't have that. When Cade was coming up, when I was coming up, when Khazon was coming up, we were the ones we were our first generation of fuck-ups, so to speak. You have people that you can lean on now and ask questions. And if you don't like me and don't want to talk to me, cool, go talk to Khazon. If you don't like Khazon, go talk to Teflon. There's somebody that you can go talk to. Everybody likes you.
And if you don't like Flo,
Khazon, or
Teflon, why are you listening to this podcast?
There's somebody that you can go talk to about this. But I just wanted to point out that this was a thing that Cade wanted to do. He had fun doing a lot of these things. But it was also an organizational thing, which is something that I think that you're very good at. And you've had a lot of practice with.
Go back in time and talk to my teachers.
Yeah. Khazon, if you can remember back to the 1920s, what was it like when you were getting your early roses?
My first one, I'm not sure what I got it for, but I was at Darkwater East for 4 years, doing a lot of stuff. I was a champion and then also monarch there as well. And I got my first rose at that park, but it wasn't until 2005. So after I've been in the game for 5 years, I got my second. And my my second was I had made a whole lot of weapons for Iron Springs. So a lot of loader gear, bringing out the bag, hauling out the bag, making some garb and stuff like that. In general, other contributions and helping out around there. So that's a kind of my little start. And then just helping to build out Iron Springs. And travel was always a thing. Because where I was living up in Rome, Georgia, when I moved up into Winter's Edge, I was initially an hour and a half from the closest park.
Oh man.
And that was Iron Springs. And at that, we were a small shire. And occasionally we might explode up to like 15. But a lot of times I was coming out and it was like me meeting like 4 people, 5 people, and hitting each other for a while. And then I'm like, are we going to smart? We going to smart? And everybody's like, yeah, but story time, Rift story time. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Can we get some more wax?
Yeah.
So it was 3 hours of driving and, as much fighting as I could possibly get in that time with the folks. So, but then that part kind of died off. I also kind of with a back injury, and Squeak had to take some time off too. And then some things happened. Squeak moved off. Cade restarted the park in Kennesaw, and so that was a little bit closer. It was like an hour away. And hey, that extra half an hour,
dude. No, I totally get it.
It adds up. Yeah.
So that was good. And I got re-inspired by Cade and all of his efforts. And he was meeting up with all the Magic the Gathering nerds and convincing them to come out and swing stick and doing, during the week fighter practices and stuff, things that he was doing and bringing them in. And then they were showing up sometimes on the weekends and stuff. And it was really exciting for me. Pulled me back into the game. I really appreciate him and all his work. And that's also when I was like, dude, this guy's awesome. So how is about a page belt?
Nice.
So he was the first person that I'd ever offered a belt. It had been a long time. I'm not sure what year I gave that initial belt to you, Cade. But
it had been 2004.
Probably 2000. I think I had my dates off for probably like 2007.
That's probably about more right. Yeah. So I probably been able to give a page belt with my title since 2001, I think, something like that, or 2002. So I waited a long time. There were a lot of people, particularly Darkwater, and I didn't pick anybody. And finally, I'm like, this guy right here is awesome. And he's like, what's this belt? What's this? I don't even know what this means.
Yes? I like yellow.
Can you tell me some more?
You can't see yellow.
Shut up.
So you're bucking. I want to make an ad here, Khazon. You're bucking a trend in night to night talk. The first person you belt is always a mistake. That's the old saying. That's the old saying is the first person you belt is always a mistake. The relationship will go bad. And here's Cade. Years later, just about to you would have actually already had your belt at this point, Cade, had COVID not hit. We had. The approvals had already been given. The circle had already voted, and then COVID happened. We haven't had to have events we haven't been able to have events for a whole year.
Haven't gotten to.
Yeah, haven't gotten to have events.
So sad.
For a whole year. So
I blame you.
Good.
I guess the technically is two of us.
It's fine.
No,
I'm blaming Flo.
Specifically.
Oh, good.
Cool. Here.
Yeah.
I'm blaming Flo.
It's as good as conspiracy as anything.
Right. Yeah, right. Oh my God.
You can't blame me. I'm part of the same secret shadow cabal that you are. All 3 of us are part of the same secret shadow cabal as you guys.
That's what makes me able to blame you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Internal blame.
Oh, the fingers point inward.
My suggestion to folks that are suddenly able to belt people is don't.
Yeah.
Just wait a while. Like I don't know, half a decade. And then do it.
It's too late for me.
The vibe in the room right now is just bad.
No, it's so you both had what I'm going to describe as a more traditional path to a belt when compared to some of the other Flame Knights that we've had on there. And I don't say that as a bad thing or a derogatory thing, but both of you did you picked up trash, you made stuff for your local park, you did some things at events, and kind of built up on what you were doing at those big
Feasting,
events.
autocrating.
Right.
Yeah, feasting, autocrating.
As opposed to folks like Sir One Joe in Nine Blades, who has served on like all the different rules committees and done like, separate portions of events where it's just like running his own thing off to the side, that kind of thing. So like running the event proper feast and things like that are what we consider traditional paths to Sword Knighthood. I think because they're actually mentioned in the player's handbook. Rules of play.
Rules of play.
You said
No, I
Sword
like
Knight.
I like the Sword Knight path there. That was
It's really good.
Listen,
I like this.
Flame
Can I get that
Knighthood,
too, all right?
not listen. You can just catch that in. They're like Chuck E. Cheese tokens, right? Or
Listen,
tickets.
listen.
No,
No,
sorry.
I think the time's expired. You're no longer monarch. I had a chance. Now it's gone.
Beans.
Our time's coming, Khazon. Gillen's getting old.
Oh God.
Gun currently is traveling a lot for work. So we need to win these tournaments now.
What tournaments?
If we can, once we start having them again, if we can get that sword, we'll have all 4.
Oh my God.
We'll be able to get all 4.
Well, what I'm hearing is we need to convince our current monarchy to have some more kingdom level events that have tournaments in them that can have orders.
You know what? If our listeners agree, they should call Clover personally and tell him that. Clover's phone number
No,
is...
we can't do that. We can't
right
dox Clover. On the,
555.
They can find him on Facebook and blow up his messages.
Yeah,
there you go.
exactly.
It's 555 harass a monarch.
Yes.
So-
Hey, that was my number.
Transfers with the
Oh my
office.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
I
an
don't wish that on
old
the poor
brick.
guy. There's so
It's a
much
Nokia
traffic
that you
goes
pass
through
around.
Monarch all the time.
Yeah. Sorry. So Flame Belt Hood, though, that is the working kitchens, picking up trash, doing kind of like local park or local kingdom stuff. That is what we consider traditional path to Flame Belt Hood. I got it right that time, I think. So kind of tell us how you started on that, where it started to look maybe apparent to you that was a possibility. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Did you have a point where you were like, hey, I actually could end up being a Flame Knight?
Yeah.
Start with me?
Yeah, we'll start with you this time.
Well, to be completely honest with you, even when I hit like 9th and 10th, I was still like, nah, Neverwinter doesn't knight people up here. That's not going to happen.
For reference to
Like-
everyone, Flame was
like-
Khazon's first belt, so...
Yeah, and so I just kept on doing stuff, and when people were mentioning stuff, I was like, I don't know, if it happens, cool. If not, whatever. I'm just gonna keep doing the thing that makes me happy, and keep rocking with that. And even months after I was being told that they're going to knight me, and even like having a date when it's gonna happen. I'm like, at any moment they can revoke this. Like, I was seriously thinking, like, any moment. Like, I think it was like maybe the week before. I'm like, they probably can't go back.
Yeah, I told you.
Like, I heard Squeak has a plane ticket. They're probably not going to revoke. Probably.
If they did it now, it would be really awkward. So like,
Squeak would have hunted all of them down. She would have killed them assassination style from a movie.
Sounds about right.
Cade, what about you? Did you reach a point where did you start out and say, "Hey, I'd like to be a Flame Knight," or did you reach a point where you said, "I think that this could happen"?
Well, I think when I started Amtgard, I heard about Sword Knights, and I thought that was a path. But I would say that Flame, very similar to Khazon, I kind of got the feeling at some point that, hey, I might eventually get there. That was never a goal. I don't see that as a goal. Much like Khazon, I would say I did the things that I wanted to do because I wanted to do them, because I wanted to do an epic meal or all those years of Crystalline Chronicles, because we wanted to make a really awesome event. That was the purpose. I want to say I originally caught this somewhere from maybe Sir Shalazar, but it used to be like his tag for his emails, I think. It said, if you're doing it for the belt, you're doing it wrong. Like, the awards are great. It's nice to get recognition. It's nice to see milestones and things. But if that's the reason you're doing something is to get recognition, you need to find something else to do. because really it's about, like, if you go and make something. I know this tunic might not look epic right now, but when I was making it, it was like, I want a really cool Iron Springs tunic, and all this little mess right here is actually all applique. And I still feel good about that. And it's not because I got an award for it. It's because I took the time to make it, and I was really happy with it. And I would say service is much the same way. Like, you put your time into it, and you're looking to get that result of the thing that you were doing. Much like Khazon, I would say that sure, they told me it might happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm not worried about it. You mentioned earlier that I would probably already be knighted if it wasn't COVID, and I don't think that that's the other thing. I think it was Goran that said, really what you're doing when you accept a knighthood is taking a permanent position within your kingdom. And it's not a destination, it's not a goal, it's just part of that longer journey, and it's a good milestone, but it's not the end of the path. So as much as it sounds cool to get knighted, I'm actually more excited about the next event that we're going to run.
Yeah, I can tell you that Squire Gunn was the same way in my conversations with him. He said almost the exact same thing that you did. Was this is a nice stop along the way. There's a lot of really good scenery here, but it's just another stop along the path, right?
Well, so this kind of brings me, like, so it's a milestone, and I agree with that. I think that's a very good way to look at it. But what is the next milestone? So you get knighted, and then is it raising people who want to do what you did for our game, or is it something else? Like, what does that look like? We'll start with Cade.
I'd like to get to the milestone and take a look around first, but
Legit.
Yep.
But yeah, that's probably along the line. My man at arms Tarlock, who I give his shout out. The last Crystalline Chronicles, he took up my old position and made all the dungeons, and I'd like to see him be able to build on that, and because he really enjoyed doing it, and he did a bang up job. And together we even came up with things like a moving wall trap in the middle of a dungeon, which was pretty cool. So yeah, Flo, where the wall actually moved, the physical wall inside the dungeon moved and trapped people in a room.
My head went to Labyrinth, where like the little guys come out and they're like and flip the tiles around.
A little bit. I mean, it was essentially a tarp that was rigged up, and we could pull on ropes to close off a pathway as a moving wall. But it was pretty awesome. And so yeah, I'd like to kind of see him move along. Our park White Oak, working on making that grow. I'd like to keep running, get back to running full immersion events, and doing it just because it's fun and awesome to do, and getting other people to be able to take, those other roles up.
Speaking of full, I know that you have another question.
No, I was just going to pass that question to Khazon too. Like, after you got knighted, what did the next milestone look like? But
before you answer that, you mentioned full immersion. Both of you were on the Crystalline Chronicles team. Are we going to have another Crystalline Chronicles like event series that's going to be coming up that you guys are going to be working on? You're nodding very emphatically. And
usually,
Khazon is
so
just
many people
stoically
are like,
stroking
I don't
his
want to
beard.
make any promises.
Hold on,
asterisk,
Khazon. I'll join you. Yeah.
Teflon saw the bid.
Yep.
I mean, we bid it to the kingdom.
It was going to be run.
So yeah, I mean, we're looking at doing the Book of Heroes. I think we're looking at spring of next year will be our technically second but first one, and we're partnering. We've talked to the folks down at Iron Springs and the folks at White Oak, and we're looking at doing it as a local event, buddy camping event.
Cool.
And bringing the kingdom in, and we'll be working with the kingdom as well to make sure we schedule it so it doesn't step on any toes there either, and we don't have them scheduled too close to kingdom events, because We want everybody to be able to make coronations, but we also want everybody to be able to come to the Book of Heroes. The first one was pretty awesome, and we've learned a whole lot about running both immersion and events in general since then.
Nice.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, like the very first event that Winter's Edge had to cancel due to COVID was that event, and because I had approved it for the next event and everything.
I have another question that brought up, but I want Khazon to be able to answer the question we'd originally asked first before I bring that up. So, Khazon, I don't remember the question.
Okay, yeah, I was ready to jump in here. So, Khazon, as somebody who's reached that milestone, getting your flame belt, I gotta parse it. Getting that belt and then having the time to look around. What did you consider to be the next big milestone? I know you've got some squires that are up and coming, and like, is that it, or what did you look to do next?
Well, to be completely honest, what I was looking to do next was to attempt to try to enjoy the game.
Oh yeah,
that's weird.
So obviously you didn't do that. What else?
Yeah, what else?
The look around part. So yeah, I mean, you hit the thing, and then you're like, I'm always doing the things. I should probably try to take a step back for a minute and try to enjoy some things, which was cool, and it was kind of hard to do, honestly. And try to occasionally turn some things down, which is hard. If you're a flame knight, you understand, or you're in that path, you understand that someone asks you to do something like, yeah, let's do that.
Hey, Khazon, could you do Bardic number 30 for us?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, but sure enough, soon enough, I was jumping back into things again and consistently helping out and assisting with running things. And then some more offices happened later on, particularly when we were looking to get Kingdom. I don't know. I really felt that we needed to have, and forgive me for saying so, but like somebody with strong leadership in the spot to take us over that edge there. And we'd already had some good groundwork laid toward that. A lot of it had already been there, and a lot of the numbers were already there. But we needed someone new taking in that spot, and I figured I could go ahead and make the trip to Clan and talk to folks, and in the end, that's what happened. We got Kingdom, so that's great. Yeah, and then eventually I got recognized as well for Knight of the Crown, which was super cool. And again, I am trying to enjoy the game, trying to just participate in the games and not necessarily just run them all the time. Also trying to encourage and work things through with some of my beltlings. And I'm super excited, of course, to see Cade get graduated here. Woo!
So yeah, you see what's happening? You two see what's happening here? The people that are belted under the knight do things, and then they also become a knight.
Now,
I did things, and now I'm going to go beat Cyberpunk.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't your knight have this thing with perma-squires? That's a position that can be filled,
damn it,
right?
he does. No, so I had a follow-up question to something that Cade had said. And this is maybe a little bit of a left field question. It has to do with Crystalline Chronicles, which was not always one of the main events in our kingdom. I know that for people that have experienced Crystalline Chronicles in the recent years, it's been one of our coronations or mid-reigns or something like that. But it was, at times, an independent event, kind of like the Book of the Heroes 1. It was Book of the Heroes 1, you said, was kind of a local or independent event?
No. And actually, Crystalline Chronicles was always run at a fall coronation.
Oh, was it?
I was a little confused, yeah.
Oh, I thought that it was an independent one.
Book of Heroes 1 was done at a spring coronation, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh,
but
okay.
It was at a kingdom event. It was a coronation event, I believe. It may have been a mid-reign.
Then let me modify the question that I was going to ask then. If someone was interested in running some of these events separate from one of the major kingdom events, and along the lines that you had mentioned with Book of Heroes 2 then, where you don't want to interfere with coronation or anything, but you want people to be able to do the fun thing. being honest with ourselves, our kingdom has not always been as open about events like that as we could have. Do you have any advice for how someone could put that together? How do you get the framework for an event like that that's not going to be one of the headliners started?
I would say that we have done pretty well with raid days in the past, and we're going to try and we want to do this as a camping event. It's such a large event, and I think we're being ambitious here. I don't think if somebody has not run a fair amount of raid days, they should try and be this ambitious, frankly. But I would say start by doing raid days. Find your closest 2 or 3 parks and invite them down. Plan games for that group. And you can tell the whole kingdom about it, but really do your reaching out to your closest 2 or 3 parks, people that can make it a day trip, and just start with that and do a few of those. And I think like this type of event being independent, we're kind of breaking some new ground, frankly, because I can't think of, other than maybe Wild Hunt did theirs as an independent. But I think we're largely breaking into some new space here. So let me get back to you on that after our event.
We'll have you back on, and you can give us a wrap up and tell us all of the things that worked out like you had hoped, and all of the things that went horribly wrong. I don't think that we discussed that enough.
No, we don't.
Both of you have autocrated a lot of events. There are things that go wrong at every single event. And as we've gotten older as a kingdom, we kind of expect people to step into those roles. You know, the Feastocrat and the Autocrat and all of those main crat positions. And the projection is that they're just going to do it. They need to do it perfectly. They need to do it with almost no hiccups. But even people as experienced as the two of you are, there are still hiccups that happen. There are things that you cannot account for. You go to an event site where the oven suddenly stops working, and it's a gas-powered oven, which should really fucking terrify everyone that's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, what is the weirdest or worst thing that has happened to you when you were at an event that went wrong?
I guess we should start with, what was it, Khazon, I think, is next.
Yeah, let's do Khazon.
I'm blank.
Yeah. Because Cade says nothing wrong has ever happened at events.
Nothing at all.
Well, I mean,
it doesn't have to be like a major thing.
Making sure that everybody is super clear on what the rules of the event site are.
Yeah.
And then even when that happens, making sure that the hammer gets put down and it's really, people are told to stop doing things that are wrong.
Right.
That's really, really big. Outside of that, though, that's what the disasters. When we get people doing things like breaking the law, and you have to manage that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are the big blunders. By those people, and then trying to navigate through all that. But more typically, though, on a more typical situation, you have people who end up bailing on you.
Yes.
And some bail on you like a couple months out. Some bail on you a month in. Somebody, it's to it. Some bail on you the week before, and some bail on you the day of. And there's always going to be at least someone who bails out of your crew, and sometimes it's more than others. And trying to manage that and compensate for that is a big deal. Making sure that it's clear to your folks, like your deadlines that you want to see ahead of time, really important. Having check-ins with them to confirm that those things are actually being done before the deadline is good. So that not everybody's like last minute hustling, and then it may or may not happen, and then they bolt on you and they have 0 things done, and the next person picks up last minute, even later, because it took you a while to find them,
yeah.
and get things done. So having those deadlines, having those check-ins helps to alleviate a lot. Also, talking to people. If you feel that that someone might potentially be flaky or it's their first time going, you may consider like who could possibly be your backup, and maybe even talk to them on the side. Be like, hey, just in case this thing falls through, do you think you could possibly handle this? Then also the people that you set up, if they have shadows, people that are going to be underneath them, or someone who's going to be tuning them, those folks can also be looked at as backups too. And, be looking for those things. Really important, and making sure that those people are kind of in the know on some of those things can help to alleviate a lot of those problems. So, yeah. As far as major kitchen disasters, I'm sure Kate can talk more about kitchen disasters. But yeah, a lot of times people forget stuff too. People will forget the ditch lights. They got to turn around. I might be one of those people sometimes. Whatever it is, or someone left a really important award back at the house.
No.
I might have done that too. Stuff like that. Those things happen.
I remember one of the times we were at the Murder Barn. I go over to Khazon. He's got a lot of stuff for the whole event, so I'm helping him unload it. I was like, hey, man, so, how do you fit all of the ditch lights in here? By the way, where are those? I'll go ahead and put them on the field. And Khazon, seamlessly, he's like, I was thinking about using, just like old school, ditching under the beautiful ambient moonlight. You forgot the ditch lights, didn't you? Yeah, I
did. No, that is
just like the good old days, Flo.
Yeah, back when we would leave with black eyes and broken teeth
and cracked, orbital sockets. And no, speaking to checking in with people and everything else on Coronation, where I handed the crown off to Clover, I had a bunch of scrolls I was giving. The kingdom was giving a bunch of other things like that, and it was like every day leading up to the event. Hey guys, remember your scrolls. Hey guys, remember your scrolls, remember your awards, your whatevers, all these things that you've got, and then getting to the event and going, hey, anybody who's got a scroll, meet me over here. We're gonna, behind this little curtain, we're gonna get all these signed and organized and everything. And one person goes, I forgot to bring the scroll, and I'm like, every day I checked in with you every fucking day. I like 8 o'clock in the morning when I sign in for work, I just hop on a Facebook and go, hey guys, remember the scrolls. So yeah, you can never check in enough, but sometimes shit falls through.
Yeah.
So, Cade, any I guess I hate to say kitchen nightmares, but any kitchen nightmares that stand out to you really prominently?
We've definitely run into. Flo mentioned one of them, like the oven's not working right at one of the sites, and it was not for a small event either. That was for a very large event. So this is non-Amtgard, but I did a meal for an Ides of March. It's a Dagahir event.
Yep.
A long time back. It was the last year that High Spires actually ran that event. It's the last good year of that event. But I know that it was taken over by another group after that. When people at High Spires were none too pleased, and that event is now a dead event. It stopped happening. But that was like a 400-ish person meal, and that one we did with no kitchen.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lucas.
Sandwiches?
Yeah, it's just pita.
No, something like almost 200 pounds of smoked pork and beef, and a chicken noodle or vegetable noodle soup, and a curried butternut squash bisque, and sheet cakes, and mash. Did we do mashed potatoes? I think we did mashed potatoes, and we had salad.
Jeez. No kitchen, huh?
In these gigantic pots on the firebox of the smoker, which I had somebody who owned a gigantic smoker bring it in on a trailer, and I cooked the soup on the top of the firebox. I pre-made the butternut squash like for days before. I'd been roasting it and preparing it and making puree and storing that. And I had to store. They had no refrigerator or anything down there, and so I had filled a bathtub with ice and meat. It was all in buckets, but closed buckets. But had to get a bunch of Firehouse Sub 5-gallon buckets and put the meat in there with it's like brine and things, and store that in my guest bath. for like 2 days, full of ice. So that's probably, I was trying to think of what's one of the weirdest stories, and that's probably up there on weirdest stories that I've seen. Oops stories though. The one of the ones that I saw that made me think about dealing with meal planning and thinking about food allergies and intolerance and things like that. It's one where we were down in Neverwinter and we sat down to lasagna, and they had thought about vegetarians in the sense that they had a meat lasagna and there was a vegetable lasagna. They didn't think about was people who were lactose intolerant. And one of the members of our unit was sitting at our table, and he looked up and he's like, I can't have dinner. And I found out it's because all the lasagna was full of cheese.
Delicious cheese.
Yeah, I came to find out that there were, and I just come in from fighting all day, and I don't think I'd had, I was feeling like super clean, just clean enough. I found out there were like 5 or 6 other people in the feast hall who were also lactose intolerant, just weren't going to have anything to eat. And I went back to the kitchen, and fortunately I knew all the people who were in the kitchen, at least enough of them, and said, what do you have that you haven't cooked? And was able to find some squash and some spices and things like that, and just took over a burner and grabbed a big wok and went at it, and kind of made up a meal as I went, and got those people served, and went back and sat down and continued my meal.
Nice.
Nice.
I wasn't going to stay and do a bunch in the kitchen. I was trying to actually spend some time with my fighting company, but I wasn't going to let people go hungry either. So that definitely taught me, think about making sure you don't have dairy in everything. You can have dairy in one thing, but any one item of your meal, you should be able to not serve that to somebody and they can still have a full meal. Right. Because no matter what you do, somebody is going to be allergic to something that you make, no matter how hard you try. So you want to make sure nobody gets left out. But that was definitely the meal that taught me that.
Lactose intolerant solidarity right here.
I saw you waving around back
there. I don't know what that would be like.
Yeah.
You don't want to share a cabin
I've
with
just gone ahead and acquired a new gluten allergy. Yay me!
Oh yeah, those are fun. I've seen the gluten-free bread. It's very sad. It's this big.
And like 4 times the price.
That's the stuff that Beefy gets.
Yeah, that's the stuff that Beefy has. He makes his little peanut butter banana on it, and it's like...
He brings it in.
Tiny.
When we were still working in the office, he would always bring in teeny tiny pieces of bread to make it on.
I can talk shit, but I might be headed that way, because when I eat when I eat bread with gluten and not gluten-free bread, I have a pretty bad time. So I can only talk shit for so long. Go ahead.
As funny as that is, speaking of gluten allergies, I learned something this week. I think it was this week. I always made jokes about, things being marketed as gluten-free that are not made of wheat, like beef jerky. I learned from Khazon recently that some beef jerky actually has gluten in it. And Khazon, I have some at home. I'm going to send you later that is completely gluten-free.
Huzzah! Jack's Links, like their original thing, has wheat in it.
Why?
What?
Preserve,
What?
dry it out? I don't know.
Soy sauce that's in there is made in a place that also manufactures wheat products, and they have to put it on there.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I've also seen there's a big problem with things that are marketed as gluten-free not being entirely gluten-free. Like, that's a whole separate problem, too.
Yeah.
Or like some products that are sold specifically for that aren't actually, so you're screwed either way.
I have a seafood allergy that it has become more sensitive over the years because I didn't pay attention to it. And by not pay attention, I mean completely willfully ignored it and still ate seafood.
No, hold on. This guy would go, "Do you want to split a shrimp skewer?" And I'd go, "Flo, you're allergic to shrimp." And he's like, "Well, I'll only eat 1 or 2."
But it's reached a point now where, like you were saying, Lucas, if they make seafood, if they make shrimp on the same line or in the same factory, I still can't eat it. I can't eat whatever that thing is. And you learn that there are certain brands that you just have to avoid because they don't always post it on the package that there's other stuff made on those lines, though I think they're supposed to.
Yeah. So we've talked about like the worst case scenarios, the oopsies, the oh shit moments, the kitchen nightmares. But what are some of the moments where, because we've actually talked about this in terms of making a podcast, we're really as humans, we're often bad about telling ourselves what we did right. So what are some things that actually went right for you when you were running an event or doing anything like that? Like, what's something you were like, fuck yeah, that went exactly like I planned it? And we'll start with Cade. Sorry.
On the spot. I would say that the last Crystalline Chronicles we did overwhelmingly went really, really right. Seeing, especially, Khazon had stepped in to head one of the factions there, but watching Khazon and Teflon, having their factions argue with each other and things like that. I mean, that was certainly not an issue of me doing things right. It was an issue of me making sure the right people were in the right places, because, I'll say the fairies too is the third faction. That was an absolutely bomb choice. You guys had done Crystalline Chronicles before, but they were new to it, and it was exactly the right people to have run that faction. And to see all that work really well together, to see people not being bored and not sitting around for the most part, there was always something going on. That event ran very, very smoothly, I feel. And I'll going back to that, Ides of March meal, that one was also fairly epic mealtime. To have that actually happen with no kitchen would be one of those things that I'm still really proud of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not many people say they've catered for, 400 people or done a Sword Night boot camp, because Sword Night boot camp was also really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Doing that one.
You mentioned something that I want to point out, and it's getting the right people in the right place, and that is an organizational skill and a leadership skill. And as you progress up the ladders for both realistically Crown and Flame, you see more and more of that, instead of running around ragged trying to get everything done, quote unquote, right by yourself. And I think that is a healthy way of doing things, for one, to help prevent burnout for yourself, as well as a more effective way in general. So props to you guys for both doing those. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it definitely takes time to get familiar with the people throughout the kingdom.
Yeah,
that you can rely on, and know what skills they have, what skills they completely lack. As to who to put in what positions.
Tying this into new people too, if you're one of those people that would like to do this stuff, go up to the people that are running it. Don't look at it and say, that's a clique and I'll never be able to break in. Don't look at it in our kingdom specifically and say, it's only Seraphim doing it. And they make up 75% of our damn kingdom anyways. Of course it's Seraphim doing it. Go talk to they're normal people. They're normal guys and girls that are out there, and they want the help. They do not want to continue doing it all alone. If you go and say, hey, I'd like to cook, where could I fit in?
Yep.
You'll get plugged in somewhere. Mm-hmm. It might not be on a main course line at first. That's not where I started when I came up and said, hey, I'd like to start working more in the kitchen.
But also, owing back to what was said earlier, people flake. So if you've never done it before, don't expect to go in and be the star of the damn show. Like, you just can't.
And it's because
I think Cade's taking in new people all the time when he cooks.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Cade took me. I went into his kitchen. That was my first experience in a Amtgard kitchen. Was under Cade.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna mute Flo. Tell us. Be honest. How did he do?
Well, okay. To be perfectly honest, I'm gonna blame the migraine that is now coming back. But, but I actually don't remember which. I remember that Flo was there. I don't remember which meal we were doing. So it's a little bit of a blur. But I do remember Flo doing just fine.
Okay, yeah. No news is good news.
Flo clearly did well enough that he then was asked to be a feast crat at one point, right?
It was right after it. So it was the event shortly after that. And it was, so what Cade did is I went in and I happened to be walking by and I saw a lot of people that looked really worried in the kitchen. So I dumbly said, hey, do you guys need any help? And Cade grabbed me by the back of my shirt, led me over to a stand and said, do you know how to chop vegetables? I said, yeah. He said, chop all of these into about 1/2-inch cubes. Tell me when you're done. And I go, okay. And I picked up the knife and he said, after you wash your hands thoroughly, do I need to tell you how to wipe your butt too? And so I go over and wash my hands, and I chop up all the vegetables, and I go, Cade, I chopped all the vegetables. And he said, I don't know why you're excited about that. Now chop all of these up. I look over. I slowly pan over to this long line of like different vegetables and things and go, hey, Cade, is all of this going to need to be chopped by someone? And he said, no, Flo. All of it's going to be chopped by you. Not someone, you. And he was making something that he had to like piece all of this stuff together later for. So that was my first experience. Was I was literally just a lineman in the kitchen, like a do this and I'll tell you what you do next.
I've done it.
Oh, was that one of the Greek ones?
Yes. Yeah.
That was the Greek with the lamb. Yeah, you were chopping veggies for hummus.
Yeah.
And for quinoa, now I just went blank. The other thing.
Yeah.
The thing with the stuff.
And my kitchen nightmare story actually is from the event shortly after that, where I ended up doing Feastocrat stuff, and all of the toilets backed up. And the sewage system was linked to everything. So the drain in the kitchen started having raw sewage bubbling up through it. The drains in the bathroom started having raw sewage bubbling up through them. It was an experience. Melissa, what's her game name?
Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Dawn was also like helping out with some meals in there and had to experience it as well. It was tragic.
Yeah, I think Cinnamon got involved in that one too.
Yes,
Cinnamon and
we
Chuck.
started giving out
Jarek.
roses for people that went straight into the front lines on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to those guys, Cinnamon and Jarek, I believe, were the main two for that one.
Yeah.
I know I didn't want to do that.
No.
I personally would be very happy to give a person a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Me to never have to do that.
I remember Cinnamon and I going out to, because this was at the Murder Barn. They had a main flush valve in the back. Cinnamon and I going out and grabbing a plunger. And, like both of us, you take over. And that still didn't fix it. We ended up, so talking about things going on wrong, we had to call Roto-Rooter. People were trying to get ready for court.
Yep.
We had to call Roto-Rooter out. They got out in 30 minutes, and we paid. I tipped the guy. So the Kingdom ended up paying for the Roto-Rooter. I think that I tipped the guy $100 for coming out so quick because they're independent.
Yeah.
Kitty.
You can still play.
What's the kitty's name that's joined the podcast?
This is he was named by another Amtgarder, Jagger, named him Kit Kat. But according to Catnip, his name is Chicken Nuggy.
Chicken Nuggy. Oh, like a chicken nuggy.
Chicken Nuggy. And he is a very sweet young cat.
But yeah, so you can have crazy things go wrong was the point of that. It was fun listening to some of the things that have gone right, though, because I think that Cabbage is right. We don't often... it's easy for us to dwell on all of the things that we could have done better, and we don't always reward ourselves for what we did very well.
Well, it's also not so much that something went wrong, right? Like, it's how you guys took care of it, right?
Yeah.
It's being able to be adaptable enough to have an oven go out and be like, all right, listen, we can try and get it fixed, or we can do it this way, or whatever. These are the options we have. And then making a good decision on it is also within the realm of reason, too.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say that follow the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Just don't panic.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Don't panic. Stop. Reset. Find a solution, because it's not. You're not judged when things go wrong. You're actually more favorably judged if something goes a little wrong, but you can make it go. You can make it go back right. That's a success.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's a success. Even if you had a hiccup, it's more about just being able to recover and right that hiccup.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's going to forget about the hiccup, including you.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why sometimes when I'm driving, I'll just leave my lane a little bit, and I just come right back. just
And the people that you almost hit forget about it.
They forget right about it. No, but yeah, don't panic and bring a towel.
Yes,
Yeah.
bring a towel.
Yeah.
Yes, always bring towel.
Yeah, I can't stress enough to having building strong relationships with a lot of people, because eventually, if something's going to go wrong, you might have to be like, hey, and call in a favor.
Yes.
To assist you with those things that went haywire, and you might need a new person because X person suddenly had to go because of an emergency. They had to leave the site entirely. Mm-hmm. So having those people really, really, really big. And so
yeah, I blew out all of the fuses in the murder barn when I had hooked up all of my crock pots to do the thing that I was doing. And Aldrich saved it all. He said, I can fix this. And I said, oh man, thank you so much. Are you an electrician? And he just walked away without saying another word. But he fixed it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we have lots of people who know lots of different things throughout the kingdom, and
Yep.
some are qualified to do the things they say they can do, and others aren't. But that job got done. It got done. That's right.
it goes back to something that we were talking about earlier, though, with Crown and Flame have a lot in common. They are they're related, at least spiritually related belts, and it's because, just like you had just now said, Khazon, you end up making a whole lot of connections over time. And anyone listening to this that is interested in going for a flame belt, this is something that you are going to need to do. I don't mean that you need to just start messaging around to people randomly on Facebook and going, hey man, I just wanted to check in with you. Though I encourage you to do that. It's more, hey, I'd like to do a feast at this event. You need to start talking to some people that have done it before.
Volunteering in the kitchen.
Yeah. And most importantly, you need to, if you're going to be working with other people, even if it's your close friends, if it was going to be me and these two jokers that were working in the kitchen, and I 100% trust that they'll be there outside of something catastrophic happening, I would still go talk to some other people and say, hey, it's going to be the WAK crew that's doing it, but just in case something happens, could I count on you to be a backup? I think that's a sentiment that both of you have expressed multiple times over this podcast.
Well, I mean, we don't have to really dance around it, right? Like, at some point, you're having to build trust into yourself and doing things inside the game. And so by volunteering to cut vegetables or small things around the kitchen or whatever, you are showing that you're trustworthy enough to go up a level, so to speak, right? So that is the networking that you are doing as a new player. You are showing that you are a trustworthy individual effectively.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say, like what Jeff was pointing out, start small,
Mm-hmm.
do those little things that you probably can't really mess up, and
wash dishes,
and then build from there and build the trust with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That goes a long, long way. But yeah, start volunteering for things, see what you can volunteer for, talk to people that are in charge. I mean, a number of times Flo just walks up and like, hey, do you guys need any help? Like he did before. And Cade's like, yeah, and grabs him and pulls him in. I mean, that kind of thing, like just walk around. Who needs help? If you see a shout out on the Kingdom page, like, hey, we need somebody to do X, Y, Z, go ahead and message those folks, put it out there. But I definitely do what Teflon said there. I definitely say start small, do something that that you're good at, or that wouldn't take a whole lot of prior knowledge to do. One of the two. Either you have a lot of prior knowledge of, or something that wouldn't require a lot of prior knowledge. That you can be taught right on the spot and help out. So, but a lot of times people just need some general help. Now we need the the ditch lights unloaded. We need this set up. We need the battle game set up. Can you go ahead and run this rope over here? Like a lot of that stuff is like super needed. And we really need more volunteers to go ahead and do that. It just sucks when you're like looking around and you're like, I can't ask anybody. There's nobody around me. I don't know. Maybe I can hope for somebody. I'm just going to do it. Fine. Do the whole thing that it could have been done like 4 times faster. If you just had some folks that were showing up to help you out. So we're always in need of volunteers. And I want to say too, for those people who are running stuff, man, if you like what we all just see is so superficial. Just the top of the iceberg. When people are trying to organize events, they're putting a kingdom shout out, but almost nobody responds to that.
Mm-mm.
Like there's almost nobody that got back to, oh yeah, I want to. It's not like chomping at the bit. No, like you get like 1, 2, something maybe in most situations they respond to you, and sometimes you don't get anything at all. And then the next level comes down to go ahead and message in parks instead of just kingdom page, but parks. Messaging companies if you have access to companies or households and that kind of thing, and then comes down to personal messages to people that across the kingdom, or people either that or that you've heard would do a good job in X, Y, Z. And you start messaging them. I mean, a majority of the people that end up helping are because I've messaged them personally.
Yep.
and not because of the big shot on the list. And that's a big warning sign I want to say, because a lot of new folks, when they jump in, because that's all they've seen. When they're jumping into a new position, they're like, oh, yeah, I'll just message the kingdom list, and surely I'll get a bunch of people. And that doesn't happen. And they're all frustrated. They don't know what to do. And they're like, nobody volunteers for me. Nobody likes me. I hate this. Oh, I guess I'll just do it all myself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very frustrating. But that's the thing is, we all need to be transparent about that and let everybody know, like, there's a lot more to it. You can't just put it out the list. You got to start messaging those folks, and you might get lucky the day of too. And sometimes we get very fortunate about that, you know, grabbing people like Flo who walk around, but we got to have people like Flo, you know, and that's why I encourage those folks. Yeah. Be like Flo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in this
Put
way,
them on the stretcher.
in this way. Be like Flo, but don't always be like Flo. Wear your ankle braces and, you know, all of that.
Chuck, are you listening?
Yes.
Chuck, are you listening to me?
Yeah, right.
yes,
No,
our two bionic men.
And before you either of you go, I want to point out one thing too, that because we were talking about cleaning, we were talking about doing dishes, but listen to what Sir Khazon said. Go with what you find fun. If you say, well, I'd love to help out in the kitchen, but I'd miss the battle game. No, go up to whoever's organizing the battle game and say, I want to be a monster. I want to be an NPC. There are so many ways that you can help out.
Can I help set up the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many ways that you can help out. You can find something that will allow you to have maximal fun and still be able to get some work in that's really going to help the kingdom out.
Yeah,
So-
I think this is actually where my, I guess, thought process on how things happen changed, is that I really like doing the battle game stuff. So whenever I'm there, usually if I see someone setting something up, I kind of wander in and is like, hey, you good? You need a hand? You got it? All right, cool. I'll help out, or if you said you got it, and I'll go on. But you can get to your fun faster by helping out to going to what you feel fun.
I just now noticed that I left the
Absolutely.
mouse on the table the whole time.
So, going back to the whole thing about like the successes,
Yeah.
things you thought were really cool. I absolutely just loved when we had the dragon at CC out at Eastwind, and we ended up having a group of adventurers encounter a ukulele and a drum, and they started playing the ukulele and the drum. They were controlling the dragon around, like the dragon was like charmed during the time when that was going on. It was like soothed by the music, and we start doing their bidding. That was awesome. I also absolutely loved the big rock golem that Kelly and likely some other folks had put together for their crew, and we got to use for the Crystalline Chronicles event. And I always got to be the golem and had so much fun just roar. I mean, like those monster costumes, those special effect kind of things just go so far in people's immersion and enjoyment and fun.
Props.
Yeah, props to the props and the people who make them. And also too, like there was one point where he had come up with like a smoke machine. Yeah, like Kelly and that site, it was some really good times. He had like a smoke machine that was like billowing out like the smoke from the mead hall there, and they had like a dragon's head peering out, and we had like a microphone like doing the voice, the thing of the dragon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. And then so those were really fun times that I remember, and things going well for that. I also think there was an event that we held out there. It was War on Ferry. And this is one of the ones we were going for the Kingdom push. And I ended up running this one as the Warcrat. And I went ahead and I made it very straightforward and simple on my end. I went ahead and took Goran's Book of War, and I picked like 6 things from the Goran's Book of War that I thought were really cool. And then I went ahead and put them in the orders that I wanted to run them. And I went ahead and then skinned them to meet all of the different elements that we were trying to hit with the War on Ferry. And so they all had their scenario battle game, and they each had their own outcome and what would happen. And then you tally the points in the end. And I also set up two to start, and then ran the one. And then that was done. I hopped to the other one. And I had then a couple other helpers go ahead and arrange the one that was going to be coming after that. So they'll be ready to go after that, and kind of hip hopping like that. And then in the middle, we had a break, and we had We had let's see, Sons of Terra, top end fighters. Who am I going for here?
Bell?
Short one. Nope. Short.
Oh, Aiden.
Aiden,
Yeah.
thank you. Had Aiden go ahead and run like a sword and board class. And then we hop right back into the games back and forth. And again, having these things set up ahead of time in a way so you have the fields, you have like the general locations, so that you can run things seamlessly from game to game to game and literally have a 5 to 10 minute break. We all talk about that, and that never ever happens. It happened. Can be done. Tell me.
Excellent. But you need a
gotta
team.
set up 2 fields and get it rolling, and you got to have helpers. You got to tell them what's going on and what you want to have happen. But you can actually make it run seamlessly, and so believe in yourself. It can be done. Talk to people, make it happen.
I think I remember Khazon telling me I didn't do the quest part of this event. When this was going on, I had just recently started coming back after my my knee had been repaired, and I remember Khazon telling me that there was one of the parts of I think that this is the right event. One of the things you had to do in one of the dungeons was there's these levers that actually you interact with. And all you had to do was interact with the levers. Like, it didn't matter what position you put them in, I don't think. It was just, and no one could figure out what to do with the levers. Everyone was way overthinking it. It's like, we need to figure out the pattern and the code. And Khazon's talking to me later. And it's like, we shouldn't have done 4 or 5 levers. We should have just dthem 2 and had this.
Just one.
Because if you add any more than that, it's now... You've added too much to the dungeon.
No, that's great. Keep them confused, and then they'll feel rewarded when they do something, and then you're like, oh, yeah, that worked. Good job.
Yeah, we've had those levers show up a number of times. I made 2 sets. And,
I love them.
They've always been a hoot, for sure, with the various things we've had to do. Sometimes it's been super easy. Sometimes it's been complicated. And sometimes, in my mind, it was straightforward, but it was the other direction that they needed to do it. And then no one could actually figure out there was the other direction. Just this thing. And almost always it killed the people. Like, when you mess up, dead.
Oh, you make Gygaxian dungeons, huh? It's either fantastic reward or killer bees.
Yeah, I think we put him in a poison gas room at one point too. And we at one point we also put the code for the right levers in binary.
Oh man, that took forever to figure out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one took forever. And Michael Hammer of God was at that event, and he was like, "Oh man, I know binary." I wasn't there the whole time in that part of the dungeon. Jumping back to cool things, and you brought up Eastwind. Eastwind existing as a park is definitely one of the coolest service things I've ever done, actually. We met Kalians while playing Dagahir, and talked to him a bunch about Amtgard. And at one point he said, well, will you come out? I've got these people here, but they've never done Amtgard before. Some of them have done Dagahir. Will you come out and teach our people Amtgard? And we did. We went out like Friday evening. They had all their people for their whole park show up on Saturday. We did some fighting demos. Who was down there? I know Puddin was down there. Khazon, were you there for that one?
I was not, unfortunately. I really wanted to go, but I couldn't make it that time.
Yeah, I know Puddin was there because he's got a family member, Tiger Lily, at that park, and we and I believe Jarrett came with me, and we taught them the entire Amtgard rule book and taught them about all the classes and ran some games and showed them showed them some different levels of fighting as well than maybe had seen before. Like Puddin and I sparring was very different than what they were used to seeing at their park at the time. And after that is when Eastwind joined the kingdom.
Oh, that's really cool.
And it was something that because we'd known Kalians from playing Dagahir, and I think we'd known him for a few years at that point, at least 2 years. He was like, this Amtgard thing sounds really cool, and I've got some people in my group that just don't want to get hit with Dag Reds. And I don't blame them. That's why I learned how to block well. Because I don't want to get hit.
Dag Reds are no joke.
Yeah.
And especially when somebody like Flow Size is swinging them.
It's like getting hit with a diving board.
So they wanted to maybe give Amgard a shot, and that's when Eastwind as a park was born. We had a great time that weekend. One of our old monarchs actually was introduced to Amgard that day. Jade was there that day. Yep, and she checked that out. I remember helping her with her character.
Well, and let's think about what that small act did. That act became huge, but the small act of just, I happen to know this person, brought us Kelliance, who is either at his 10th or masterhood now. I don't remember which one in Dragons. It brought us Jade, who has gone on to be one of our monarchs and has been very important to their local group, even outside of being a monarch, both before and after. It brought us Kay, who is also working the way that has a whole lot of arts and science awards. I think dragons, mostly dragons, but is also getting up there really high. And all of this came from just saying, hey, you know what? We met these people, and I think that we could introduce them. And that's to say nothing of a lot of the other names, Cocaire and
Bell.
I mean, if you want a butterfly effect all the way out, our current regent came from that act. I mean, it has a long-reaching effect.
Yeah, that's probably one of the coolest things I've done because it had such a far-reaching effect. And there's so many people who have played there and at their new park. I want to say Sylvan Glade, but I feel like that's wrong.
No, that's it.
Yeah,
it's Sylvan Glade now, and then Eastwind became Eastwind Wyvernborn. I think they've sort of reformed.
Yes, it is. It's Eastwind Wyvernborn. Yeah. Yeah. Cross gaming has been huge for us. I mean, that's how that really happened there. Cade had gone out to High Spires and tucked out Daga here and kind of opened that door for some of us and let us know what was going on there. I jumped out there. Cade promptly then put me on my butt, and I didn't realize that was to be a thing. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, wow. I'm like, all right, okay. This is how this game gets played. Okay, all right.
It's your Beltlines thing. You all injure each other's back. You all have your backs injured. Which is why I've made the argument many times that Jarek should actually be in our belted line. Where we break knees and ankles.
So you would have to trade me for Jarek because I have back injuries also.
I didn't think about that. Hey, Khazon, could you stay on the call for a little bit once we're over?
Hey, hold on. I like it here.
we're like we're gonna swap people here. And
you already made the belt.
I did.
For Khazon,
yeah, I mean, that influenced Cade opening that door, us going and checking out Lost Kings and Daggett here. That really made a major difference. We picked up a lot of different battle games and stuff from them, a lot of rooftop battles and things. This was coming into like just before V8 really, and we started adopting some things that kind of touched into V8 and making things like respawn, touch and go respawns and that kind of stuff. It made a big difference in our gameplay. I mean, reaching out to other organizations and visiting them and having them come visit you, and same thing too, visiting other parks and having them come visit you. Really big. I mean, we owe a lot to our kingdom status. We owe a lot of our kingdom status to Eastwind becoming very large and doing a lot of things, and we owe it a lot to Dragon's Hollow and the surrounding parks for coming together. And the whole kingdom as a whole, like coming together as a big. But those two were like very large groups at that time that really assisted us in becoming what we've become. Good stuff. Harking back also to something that was awesome. I remember there was one Crystalline Chronicles too that we had themed, and maybe Cade, you think maybe you've been in charge of the food on that one too. I'm not sure, but we were in charge. We had a themed food based off some of the creatures that we encountered. Nice. So we had like a dragon and stuff that we had gone ahead and had, and some other things were chopped up and it became things. So having like themed food based off of things that you encounter and the role play that goes on there makes things kind of neat and enjoyable as well.
Yeah. Now I want scrambled dragon eggs.
I'm just thinking about how hungry I am right now, you guys.
Hey, Waffle House?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'm starving.
Wow.
Oh man. God, I had a question and it left me.
That's my fault. I said, "Hey, I've got this one thing," and then it turned into more than one thing.
Oh, this is pretty common for us.
Well, I mean, just to kind of reiterate, small things like Cade said that he had just did the small thing of going and showing, the group of Eastwind stuff, and we have now blossomed out leadership positions to artisans and things like that out of that. Mm-hmm. The same thing can be said for small time actions in at events and things like that, right? Like you go in, you cut potatoes one event, and then the next event, maybe you're helping out with breakfast as like with the lead person or something like that too. These are very analogous, at least in my mind.
Yeah. Well, so I remembered what I was going to say. This is owing back to what Khazon had said earlier about, you have to reach out to people, and, people post up on the Kingdom page and they don't actually get volunteers. And I have actually heard the sentiment from too many people where they say, oh, well, I'm paying my $30 or my $20 or whatever, so I don't have to volunteer. And it's like, no, you're paying your $20 because people are volunteering. If we have no volunteers, your event is now $75. So get off your ass and do something.
Yeah.
Or
like
higher.
I mean, exactly.
Straight up. I mean, if we're actually paying people legit wages to do this stuff, it's a lot more. I mean, we get such value for our dollar. It is just amazing.
And AmpGuard events in general.
I mean, you get 3 meals, a place to stay, like events, $20. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, and so there may be a lot of people in Winter's Edge that do not do any cross gaming. I am one of them, but I have a lot of very close friends that cross game. So let's talk about some of the other games that are out there and how they do their stuff. Often you don't get 3 squares a day like you do at our events. Often at other kingdoms and AmpGuard, you don't necessarily get 3 squares a day like you do at our events. And for the longest time, we really tried to keep it at 25. I think that we finally had to up it because we hadn't adjusted for inflation or anything, and we just reached a point where we
couldn't do it. Really.
Yeah, we couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm just looking up gate feet for like Pensic for the SCA, and it's $215 for an adult.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at your $20 thinking, I've done my part.
Meals included. I'm certain there's 0 meals included in that.
Oh, no. They do have like a vendor row, which is pretty solid and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, when you're going, well, I paid my $20. I did my part. No, you didn't. Yeah, come on now.
No, that's just getting you a spot to stay.
Yeah.
Like all that vendor stuff, you're buying your meal plan from those people, or you're going out and individually buying all the things, or you brought your own food. That's just getting you in the door and getting you to camp in that place.
Well, and I would ask too, as folks who have both run events and I mean even just run specific parts of events like the kitchen, of course, but how much planning really goes into one of those? Like how in terms of weeks, how much planning would you say actually happens?
We'll go with Cade first.
It totally depends, man. If we're doing actually I'll just call it the standard AmpGuard event, that's actually a whole lot less planning than say something like Crystal Chronicles. That takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, I was thinking Crystal Chronicles.
We're straight up forming the rules because our rules didn't really quite cut it at the time. V8 is way more compatible with what we were trying to accomplish, though.
Well, like Cade, how much planning would you say went into Crystal Chronicles?
Okay, I'll go with my memory of the most recent one, and I want to say that we already had, so we started kind of late on that for reasons, but it was June when it was early June, I think, when I got in touch with Teflon to be a faction leader.
That seems about right, yeah.
There had already been planning prior to that.
For the event in October, right?
For the event in October.
Right. I just want to make sure that was clear where we're talking.
And that was because I would say there had already been planning prior to that, but that was the 8th year we'd run it. So we've also got 7 years of planning already in the bag for, the general structure of the event and things like that, and how we're going to do money and items. And, we'd already tried a bunch of things out at that point. And we were bringing in our second tier of leadership in June, at the beginning of June. I don't know the date I talked to the first person. I know the date I talked to the last person. And it was mid-June when I talked to the last person in that second tier of management, second tier of responsibility. So yeah, that's how much planning went into it. And then we had fairly regular meetings. Also, partly because I was being a little lazy and I didn't want to do it all myself, But really, that the idea was good delegation, and trying to get the faction leaders to discuss with each other. Okay, how are we going to catch Grimrar from Khazon's faction? What items is Khazon's faction going to be able to use to capture Grimrar? Grimrar, you come up with something, and then you guys, here's your quests that I want you to work on before our next meeting. Come up with ideas, and then we'll all throw ideas back and forth on these types of quests that are going to involve each other's factions. So we had a number of meetings. I don't know that it was weekly, but it was at least bi-weekly that I think we were having meetings.
Yeah, this last time not bi-weekly, but almost all the years in the past when we started coming closer to the event, it was weekly meetings.
Yep.
But earlier out, it'd be like once a month, and it'd be like every other week, and then it'd be like once a week coming in, closer. But yeah, this last year we didn't really need to do that as much for a multitude of reasons. So I think also a good part of that was being able to establish a different organization for our leadership. Mm-hmm. Whereas before it would be like 4 kind of like equals, kind of trying to negotiate things. This year we were finally able to establish that it would be okay among the people that were going to be running the things that we would have one head. That was something that personally I had wanted for a long time, but some people in the crew weren't okay with. I really am a big fan of, we have a bunch of folks, a number of folks that bounce ideas, who know what they're doing, like a number of folks, a small crew. Yeah. Of people who know what they're doing, have a good idea, but we have one head. So in the end, someone has to be the decider.
Yeah.
And that is so much better than trying to just kind of negotiate with each other so much. At some point, someone's got to make the call and we move. Boom, boom, boom. And by having Cade do that this last time, that saved us all a lot of time, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a quote-unquote manager or whatever you want to call it position that may be still involved with everything as far as like maybe they're good at Warcrat type stuff, so you involve them there as well. But to organize, to make the decisions like you said, and to like delegate the things that come up that you're like, oh, this isn't quite mine, but this is a really good idea, and get them moved around to the correct people. And that way you have someone to look to get the groups together and get everything moving more correctly and efficiently.
Yeah. I mean, we could like delegate things like this person handle this thing, and this handle this thing. But sometimes things would like overlap a bunch, but even more so again, like we had two great ideas and we could go either one, and we can't really seem to, come to a conclusion on that. Mm-hmm. But by having one head, you can just, it's going to be this one.
Yep.
They're both great. We're going to do this one and just roll.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The point I was getting at with the question of, how much time does it take planning these events is to demonstrate there is no shortage of opportunities out there. If you want to do this, and this is something you think that you'd be good at, there is no shortage of places where you can step in and help and do something.
Yeah, I mean, even with Crystalline Chronicles, which we've mentioned multiple times here, the leadership structure there changed over time. And
it has to.
And it didn't, because people got burnt out. People came back after they had done it for a while. But
New people stepping up.
And I'm actually going to give a shout out to Tarlock here, who we mentioned earlier.
Oh, man, yeah.
He came in and started helping, and I don't think he was a Seraphim just yet. I think that part of the work that he put in and help that he gave is kind of one of the things that pushed you guys towards saying, hey, maybe this is somebody that we want in the group.
He was already my man at arms.
Was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I picked him for a reason.
Right.
Was he your first?
No.
Okay, good.
No. Person shall remain unnamed.
Okay.
But my first was not a good fit. And I think I made choices for the wrong reasons, and I think this time I made choices for very right reasons. We have another guest star.
Yeah. Do we have another kitty? What's this kitty's name?
Yeah, this is Lara. I think she's tried to sleep on your face before, Flo.
She has.
Yeah.
She was trying to steal my breath.
This cat is older than some of the Amp-Guarders in our kingdom. It's like 17 now.
Oh man.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sorry. I talked about your age.
No.
She can almost buy cigarettes.
Well, I do actually have a snake here. People would say because you have a snake, you must be a Slytherin, but my snake is Gryffindor colors.
Nice.
But I can actually look at my sister-in-law and say I have a pet older than you. So
Yeah, your snake can actually legally drink if it was a human.
yeah, he's 22.
Oh wow.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
Can we all just
Yeah.
take a moment to contemplate the implications of drunk snake?
Do you get a rat drunk first or a mouse, and then feed the snake?
No, it curls its tail around the beer and just kind of.
So,
I think that was somewhere in that Robin Hood movie.
what part of Georgia are you from? South Central? So
Different Robin Hood movie. I was thinking Disney, Sir Hiss.
Yeah, that's where I went.
is that the Kevin Costner one? Is that?
These men in tights here.
Yeah, no, your Men in Tights. We're Disney.
Oh, the fox, the one with the fox.
Fox,
is the-
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The Fox.
Sorry, I went to the Kevin Costner one after that, which has one of my favorite lines in any movie ever. It's Friar Tuck, who in the background says, is talking to the merry men for the first time and says, "And now, me boys, we will discuss one of God's finer creations, beer." So we are running on somewhat of a time limit because our recorder is going to shut off at exactly 2 hours and I think 3 minutes.
The RSD card has that much space left in it.
Yeah, so I want to give some time for both of you. If you have a fun, funny, or crazy story that has happened to you in Khazon, you can't use the same one.
Okay.
That's my gig. I retell stories on the podcast. To share with us, and I want to start with Cade because I like him better. Cade, do you have a fun, funny, or crazy story that you'd like to share with the greater Amtgard world?
All right, Kate, don't pick the one I've got in my mind.
Which one do you have in your mind?
Well, if Khazon, if you tell it really
Oh, yeah,
fast.
that's a
Hopefully it
great
won't be the
story.
same.
I'll definitely use that one. Okay. Actually, so not Amtgard. I'm gonna go to Daggy here because it is Amtgard adjacent.
Right.
As a story, there was we were at Ragnarok for our first year at Ragnarok, and I checked out their website ahead of time and seen that they had this thing called Banner Wars, and I was like, oh, that sounds really exciting. And short version is essentially nighttime capture the flag, and it plays like from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day of the week, and this is a more than week long event. But you've got 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. all week long. And so I pushed our little tiny Seraphim group. I think we had like 4 or 5 Seraphim fighters there that week. I was like, we should do this thing. And I got the Ravenous crew and some High Spires people that were camping with us to jump in on it. No idea really how this is all going to work. And said, okay, fine. They kind of threw me under the bus and said, you're putting us up for this. You have to team captain. And sent me up to the meeting. And so our little crew down in our little swamp, and that's what it was because it rained a whole bunch and we were right on top of the water table. There was a little creek that ran past our camping zone. So when it rained, we were essentially just thick with mud.
Oh, no.
And we definitely showed up. The people that we had fighting for us, there were like set team sizes. You'd only have 15 active members at a time. So we recruited a little bit from other people we knew from the Southeast and Daggy here that were like camping in our zone. We went and captured the flags of both other teams that were playing. There were only 2 other teams playing at the time, and had defended them so effectively that they teamed up against us and came down 30 against our 15, and we still drove them out, and we're yelling things at them like, get out of our swamp, Shrek style. So that was a lot of fun. The last night, they had managed to capture a flag back from us. that's what was we'd actually taken one night off because of the Mardi Gras parties. We left Jarek to defend the flags by himself, and with one other person, and he made a raid on one of their camps by himself with our one other person that was supposed to be holding the light on a stick, just yelling out to people that didn't exist. Come in from this side, come in from that side. The next day they said, "Man, that was a lot of fun. How many of you guys were there?" And he's like, "There was just me." And that was fairly epic. And then the last night, we literally just walked our team up to their base, slaughtered them for the flag, and sat there and waited the time limit while our flag runner ran down and came back, slaughtered them a second time, took the flag, and walked back home. But I think one of my favorite parts about that was we had like a captain's meeting late in the week, and we were just all sitting around and talking, and these guys were Daghir people from up north, and I don't want to disparage Amtgard from up north, but they asked, where we were from, and I said, we don't, play as much Daghir. We mostly play Amtgard, and I'm pretty sure at least one of them caught a fly. Like, wait, we just got cleaned up by Amtgarders. So that was pretty awesome. I'm pretty sure that was also the same Ragnarok where we were walking down the big Heartbreak Hill, and Khazon's shoe got messed up, and he said, "Oh, this shoe's had a good run. I've had it for 20 years." And the person standing next to him said, "Oh, that shoe's older than I am."
Oh, no.
Khazon grabs his shoe, woo! Off into the woods. And that was also awesome.
I empathize, Khazon.
Khazon, did I take your story?
No, you did not.
Excellent.
Okay, go for it. Your turn.
All right. So we're heading to some event, and we're just driving along, doing our thing, and we grabbed some fast food, and one of our folks in the back starts eating some fries or something, and it just kind of sticks in their throat, and there's like, so one of our guys in the car just like hits the guy in the back, boom, boom, hits him back a few times, boom. Next thing he goes, and projectile vomits from the back seat, like up in the front, like the center console, and like up in like Cade's arm who's driving. He's like, oh! We're just like, oh my god, the most horrific thing ever. So I'm like calling like as quickly as I can, like calling the car in front of us because we're caravan,
Yeah.
It's like pull over now. And we like just dive off to the side and like immediately pull off from this campsite. We all like burst out of the car like, it's awful. Oh my gosh, it was just horrific. And then so the person we threw up, like their pants were just soiled with nastiness.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I got a pair of swim trunks you can borrow, whatever. So I lent him the swim trunks, and I don't know what it was, but this person decided that swim trunks need to come up like above the navel, and so they're all up real nice and high.
Oh,
and I'm like
no.
looking awkwardly. I'm like, so, are you going commando? Are you, yeah. Oh, it's cool. They're yours now. These swim trunks are yours. They're the type that have like the lining in them and everything. And I'm just like, no, it's fine. You can just keep these. And then, so that wasn't the only casualty. Not only did the pants get wrecked, but there was also a pillow involved. And this pillow had been connected to this person for a very long time. And sometimes we get very connected to things like stuffed animals and stuff like that. And so this item was very precious. And so, unfortunately, I had to lay it to rest. And we did like a whole funeral kind of service thing. It was very, very, heartfelt. And then we moved on. But yeah, that's one of those stories on the way to an event right there. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Rest in
that's
peace,
a
this one
really
comes.
good one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let me see.
It was mourned on the way to the event as well. Yes.
That's rough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you make it.
Some other podcast we'll talk about Electric Amp Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we had like foam weapons that were hooked up to an electric fence.
Oh, man.
Yeah, nope.
So
No.
on that,
We've got.
This isn't after phone fighting, but
Yeah, it's definitely not Amp-Guard.
Fair enough.
But that was fun. Would love to do that again.
Flo, you have a
He said no. He said no.
you have like a side project, yeah, that you're doing with the
Not
Saturday
electric
night,
fence.
yeah, the Saturday Night Bardic, where you
Oh,
can
I
have
am.
them tell
Yeah,
the stories.
Yeah. So I'd actually like to have both of you on. WAK is going to be doing a segment called Saturday Night Bardic. They'll release every Saturday night, and it's stories from around Boffer World. So maybe that would be a really fun one to tell there. I actually have one that I could add to it where when the Noblander that the Triads went to, the person who was going to be the general of the other army wanted to bring razor wire to run around their camp.
Fuck?
Yeah, so they ended up not being the general.
No, okay, we can't tell the story now. We got to save it for Saturday Night Bardic.
Yeah, right. So we have a little bit of time left.
Yeah,
We're coming up on it, but I was wondering if I could request a story. Ooh.
Oh, no.
And this is from Khazon, though Cade may know this story as well. Could I request the Dag Senpai story?
I was thinking about that. I'm like, Saturday Night Bardic. Yeah, like that's probably a good time when I should tell that one. It's like what's going
So
through my
we
mind.
can save it. We can save it if you want for Saturday Night Bardic.
I think we'll save that one, and I'll loop people into watching it.
You're gonna be our first episode.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
Let's spoil
that
our
one needs some prep
content.
work. That one's fun. That one's fun.
All right. Well,
yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I like to do a recap, especially because this is our last episode.
this has been the quickest hour and 45 minutes I've ever sat
I
through,
know,
dude.
right? I like to do a recap, especially because this is our last one that we're doing for the month. First off, I want to thank all of the guests that we've had on for this month. Joe, Regan, Khazon, Cade, and
Sir Roger.
Sir Roger. Man, I'm so sorry, Sir Roger, that I forgot that. Thank you all so much for coming and talking to us. Thank you so much for giving your advice to new players. Thank you, both of you, for talking to us about your experiences coming up through Flame and some things that work for you and some things that didn't. I think that it's really important for people to hear from the people that have already gone through the journey that everything wasn't always perfect, and it was your ability to find workarounds and continue going that has really gotten you to the place that you're at right now, because there's always going to be something crazy happen. You're looking at two people that are heavily responsible for the kingdom becoming a kingdom through the actions that they've taken. So from everybody here on the WAK group and everybody in Winter's Edge, really, thank you both so much. And I look forward to you getting knighted at some point, Cade, maybe because COVID restrictions ever lift in a couple of years, 5 or so.
I think it's actually on Clover's to-do list. I don't know that for certain because I'm not privy
Lifting
to every
the
decision.
having a real event.
It.
No,
we
knighting
discussed
Cade.
it.
Oh yeah, okay, that's awesome.
So
That's
I don't know
awesome.
where that is. I know it's probably on the. I know I left it for him as a please do these things. So we'll see what happens. For now, though,
it's been discussed.
Good.
Lucas.
Good.
Excellent. Lucas, you want to roll us out?
I'll push the button. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to follow us on Facebook for announcements and more.